Well, for more, let's cross to Rio de Janeiro and correspondent Tim Vickery. Tim, let me begin by asking you, this is a trip where Sergei Lavrov is going to Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, kicking it off with Brazil. Is Brazil now firmly in the leftist camp? We'd been told when Lula became president again that he was going to follow a more moderate course.
Brazil, Francois, is never one for beginners because among the people who are celebrating this rapprochement with Russia is the powerful agro-business sector, very much on the right politically, very much associated with Bolsonaro. But they need Russian-made fertilizers, and Russia is becoming an increasingly important trade partner for Brazil. I think we can break this down. There are three reasons that Brazil would appear to be taking this course. Number one is that Lula, by his very nature, is a builder of consensus. It's what he feels happy doing. He always thinks that there's a way to get sides together round a table and broker a deal. You might call it New World optimism. Some people think that he doesn't always understand the depth of old world enmities, but Lula always thinks if both sides could admit their faults, there's a chance of brokering a deal and making progress. Number two, as we've mentioned, is the realpolitik of the importance of Russia as a trade partner, and especially those fertilizers. And number three, you alluded to it in the introduction there, is certainly on the visit to China last week, Lula very much looking forward to a new world order, a world order less dependent on the United States, a world order in which the dollar is not the reserve international currency, in which the United Nations is stronger and more representative. And yes, in a kind of suave and consensual way, he's making these points, and his criticism of the role of the United States in helping arm Ukraine and prolonging the war is, I believe, part of this process.
Part of the process. At a press conference they're staging now, the Brazilian foreign minister saying that his country nonetheless is in favor of a ceasefire and is for a sort of, I guess you could call it a college of nations to broker a peace between Russia and Ukraine. What do people think of that where you are?
Well, Brazil can feel a long, long way away from the rest of the world. This isn't front page news. It isn't a major talking point at bus stops and bar rooms and so on. But there is criticism. Lula is coming in for criticism for apparently taking an equivocal approach to responsibility for the war. The point is being made in the Brazilian press that if one country invaded the other, how can there be equal responsibility? So there will be many who criticize, but also many, especially the agro-business sector, who may well be pleased that improved relations with Russia mean that the supply of fertilizers from that country is not jeopardized.
Fertilizers, and they also talk about exports of meat.
Yes, the trade links between Russia and Brazil have grown greatly in the last couple of years. Russia and Brazil are becoming increasingly important partners. Now look at Lula's agenda in the early times of his presidency, to Argentina, to China, to the United States, relations with Russia. These are all things that Lula will argue are in the best interests of the nation state that he represents. One perhaps of the great ironies of the Bolsonaro government, far-right nationalists, but the Bolsonaro government often seemed more concerned in following the nationalism of another country, Donald Trump's United States, rather than the sovereign interests of Brazil.
Tim Vickery reporting live from Rio. Many thanks.